Hi, my name is Liz Hathaway and this is my look at the week ahead, what astrologically caught my eye this week. So let's dive in with Monday. It's Monday the 27th of April. So today we see Mercury moving sign. Mercury's moving from kind of quite combustible, outspoken, speak first, think later, Aries, into much more deliberate, much more cautious, much more patient, much more, let me make up my mind before I open my mouth, Taurus. So there's a big shift there, Mercury's movement from Aries, where it's kind of quite fiery and combustible, into this much more peace-loving, much more sort of, well thought through sort of Taurus. Interestingly, we've got Venus in Gemini at the moment. So Venus is in the sign of Mercury. So what we have is what astrologers call a mutual reception between Mercury and Venus. So these two planets now are at each other's support network, if you like. They're there, they're going to sort of back each other up in a way. So what you get is, for example, Venus in Gemini has now Mercury in Taurus behind her. So, words can be kind of soothing. They can be quite creative in a way. It's kind of creative, adding a creative edge to thinking. Whereas the Mercury in Taurus, which can be quite slow, gains some kind of colour and vibrancy and the ability as well to maybe think with more nuance, think quicker, think outside the box from Venus in Gemini. So it's kind of interesting to have a little look at some of the people who were born under this sort of mutual reception. And we find it among some modern composers. I'm thinking of Richard Strauss and Eric Satie, who have this so it's kind of got a musical feel to it, actually, doesn't it? Because you've got the creativity of Venus combined with the ability to translate and put into a form, which is very much Mercury in Taurus. So we get people like Rudolph Valentino or somebody like Joe Louis. And some of the quotes, I just looked like famous quotes from people with this particular mutual reception in their birth chart. And I thought this one by Joe Louis was really interesting. He said, "I don't like money actually, but it quiets my nerves." And I find nervous system is very Mercury Gemini. And he sort of also, a nice quote from Joe Louis, "If you've got to tell them who you are, you ain't nobody." So there is a kind of a playfulness in the words. There's a kind of a witticism in Mercury in Taurus with Venus currently in Gemini. What are we going to see? We're going to see, of course, on Tuesday, Mercury square in Saturn, which you can think of as closing down the mind in some way or having to think through a difficult challenge. It could also be a kind of a chronic thing. Saturn Saturn is quite often, if it's illnesses and things like that, Saturn are quite often the chronic ones, things that have been going on for a long time. But because of the mutual reception between Mercury and Venus, there's also a sort of more adaptive quality to this square. It's an ability to morph into something else or to take a new approach to an old problem. Because of course, when we get to Friday, we see Mercury is then conjunct Uranus, which is, the archetypal sort of thinking outside of the box, taking new approach, coming at things from a different angle, and just having a freshness to it. But again, it's in Taurus, so it's kind of benefiting a lot of the communication things this week are definitely benefiting from Venus in Gemini. So what else have we got this week? We've got a situation where there's a lot of planets in Earth, no fire. When Mercury moves out of Aries now and moves into Taurus, that fire contingent is completely taken out of the equation. So people are that edge of sort of erring on the side of caution is very much sort of the sort of order of the day, if you like. Fire that has that ability to take risks, to see the future, reach for it, push ahead, you know, dive in. Whereas now, you know, we've got Sun, Mercury, Jupiter, Uranus, Pluto, all these planets in earth signs. So there's definitely a sort of element of play safe, I think. We've got a few planets in air, Venus, of course, Mars and Saturn, so there's an air contingent, and there's just Neptune in water. But that lack of fire, you know, that lack of fire is going to be felt, I think, in the collective. So an interesting week. We've also got May Day coming up this week, which is always a sort of, you know, celebratory sort of feel to it, celebration of spring, celebration of birth, celebration of new energy. You know, I don't know about you, but I've been, you know, buying myself lots of flowers because that's the tradition, you know, of May Day. We'd, you know, in the 16th century, 15th century, we'd make these garlands of flowers, and the children would go around the houses collecting, you know, pennies to show, because they'd cover the garland with a cloth, and then if you paid a penny, they'd take it off and show you this wonderful garland of flowers they'd made. We're celebrating the spring, we're celebrating, you know, all the joys of this wonderful season of the year. So guys, I'm wishing you a fantastic week. Stay safe, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.